Hope you're all doing well. So today we're going to go through the Pro Tools session for our brand new single, Better Than This. So we're going to go through what is in the session, what we've done, what we recorded, how we processed those recordings, and anything special that we've done to achieve the results we did. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and like our channel, and let's get into it. So this is the Pro Tools session. As you can see, there's quite a lot of tracks going on, and quite a lot to get through. But the first tracks we come across are the drum tracks, and they are these tracks in yellow. And we have all sorts of different mics around the drum kit, but we'll go through them one by one and see what we have. So the first track we come across is an 1176. So it's a mic placed in front of the drum kit, and it's looking directly at the drum kit, in front of the drum kit, and it is smashed through an 1176 compressor as fast as we can get, hence the sound of this kind of, you know, that's where we get this pumping sound. So it adds a lot of excitement to the drum kit, you know, just to make it really come to life a bit. Next up we have another smash track. We didn't actually use this track in the mix, but let's show you guys what it sounds like. So as you can hear, that is very dirty and very definitely smashed. Once again, it's the same thing. It's the same mic that was feeding the 1176. It is just mounted to a different input, and that input is a very slight distortion pedal, a guitar distortion pedal, that we just crank up to get that kind of, you know, really distorted sound. Well, it's just the added excitement, you know, it's just different options at the mixing stage, because there may be a slightly softer song that you'd want to get a bit more bite out of the drum kit, so that's where that sort of comes from. So once again, that's another option mic. It is placed just in front of the, so imagine the drum kit, so the mic is just off the kick drum and back from the snare, so mainly looking at the snare, so you get this kind of really sort of woody sound, as you know, it's just kind of, it's an almost boomy sound, so it's just to add a bit of texture more than anything else. Rooms 4 is basically, as it says in the tin, it's just a series of mics, a stereo mic array in the room, placed further away from the drum kit to get a lot more room going on. So as you can see, it's quite a big room we were working in, and it's kind of, it's a nice reverb, but it doesn't bounce really, so that's kind of what you want. We didn't actually use that track in the mix. We just kind of went with a very close sounding drum kit for this one. Next up is the Room's close mic. So that's just the sound of the Room mics, and basically all they are there are a stereo array of mics that are placed about 6 feet away from the drum kit, looking down at the drum kit. So it just adds a bit of room around the drum kit without going to extremes as the far mics were. So next up is your standard overheads. Pretty standard recording fare, just a set of overheads placed directly above the cymbals, about a meter away from the cymbals. And first thing you'll probably notice, if you listen carefully, you will hear that we do an unusual thing. We actually pan our drum kit in relation to where the drummer hears everything, instead of looking at the drum kit. It's just one of those creative decisions that you make. So listen carefully, you will hear the hi-hat is on your left side. So quite unusual. It's basically just getting the drummer's perspective. So in essence, it kind of makes for a more fake sounding recording in a way. Some would argue, but it's just a creative decision. Toms. So that's the floor tom. As you can hear, it's quite big. You know, and we don't. It's my personal preference not to gate drums because it kind of makes them sound a bit like, you can hear the gate working, which I don't like to hear. So what I do is I manually gate, where I actually just go through each drum hit and fade in and around, so this sounds pretty natural. So once again, this is the floor tom. So the drum has lots of time to sort of die off, tail away naturally, instead of just clamping down immediately like a gate would do. That's the second floor tom. So the two of them together. So, pretty standard set of toms. Hi-hats. Again, just a mic placed directly on top of the hi-hats. Pretty standard. Snare. So we have 3 mics on the snare, as you can probably tell here. We have a snare top, snare alt, and a snare bottom. So the snare alt is a condenser mic. So we have a SM57 and a condenser on top and a 57 below. So let's show you what that sounds like. So let's turn the reverb off so you can really. So as you can tell, the drum is tuned pretty low on this one because we want to get that, bottom end of the snare drum. And then next up, you have the snare alt. So there's quite a difference in sound, as you can hear. So this is the snare, ordinary snare top. And then the alternative snare. So there's more clarity on the snare alt. So we just sort of blended them together to get a sound that was. Again, I like really deep snare drums, hence the bottom end. And then that's the snare bottom, so pretty papery on its own. Put together, that sounds like. So yeah, it's pretty standard sort of snare sound. Next up we have the kick. That's the kick in mic. Lots of beater attack. That's the kick out. Once again, kick in is a normal dynamic. Kick out is a condenser. So that's where you get more sort of clarity and detail. So quite a big difference. So you blend them together, you get a nice sort of blend of the weight and the click, just to help it really cut through the mix. Next up is kick out. So that's really a lot of bottom end, mostly focusing on the bottom end. So you put them together. That's a condenser outside the kick drum. So put them together. As I say, it sounds really clicky on its own, but once you put that in a track with all the guitars and all the rest of the stuff, it can quickly disappear. So it's better to have the kick drum almost too clicky, then it'll cut through the mix nicely. So that's basically the drums. The only other thing that you heard previously was we have a bit of reverb on the snare. Sounds a lot on its own, but once again, once it gets into the track, it really disappears. The theory being is just to make it sound like it's the snare is in a room. So we went with quite a big sounding room. So yeah, pretty standard from recording. First up we have a riser. So this is, once again, it's, if you watched my last video, one thing I like to do is in between sections, like in between verses and choruses, I like to put little sound effects just to make things like the chorus pop. So first off we have, so yeah, so that is just an explosion sound. So it hits on the first beat of the chorus, so it just makes the chorus like really boom out at the speakers. And in conjunction with that we have a riser, so it just makes the thing go up. Let's show you what that sounds like. Yeah, so it's a bit of sound effect creation in a music track. So you put them together. Yeah, so you don't really expect things like that in a music song, but basically they're mixed in quite low. And what that does is, just before the chorus, it makes the track seem as if it's getting bigger until it gets the big climax at the start of the chorus. Then that sort of explosion sound just enters the chorus, just makes things appear bigger. So next up we are on to the bass. My bass playing tends to work around the idea that the bass guitar is one string and three spurs, you know, so bass players are going to hit me. So basically what we have is a simple bass. Yeah, so it's a simple, that's the verse, so it's just a simple bass run. Just kind of going with a bit of the chord changes and also a bit of the vocal melody. So yeah, so that's a clean DI. So lots of finger sound because I've really emphasized that, so it cuts through the track. So next up we have a distorted bass. It's just basically the same signal, just sent through a distortion pedal. Yeah, so what that does is it just adds, so whereas the DI might have a lot of bass end and a wee bit of sort of mid-range, but what the distortion pedal does is it adds additional harmonics that just makes the thing cut out of the mix a bit more. So yeah, so you put them together. So actually let's just play this. This is the bass DI on its own. And then let's add in distortion. So hear how the bass just kind of pops out a bit. The track we didn't use here is the bass amp. So let's show you what that sounds like. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. Just we decided to go with a direct bass sound just to get right in your face. So next up we have synths. And they're pretty simple. So we have yeah, so it's kind of like it's a very pulsating kind of sound. I'll show you what they do in a second. So we have so what that is, as a sound engineer, I tend to record a lot of sounds, just weird sounds, and then sort of chop them up as sort of one-hit sounds, where it's basically just one single hit. This case, it was actually hitting the strings of a piano with a set of drumsticks. So you hit the strings and it gives it that percussive kind of feel. The other side was where you pull the string, you almost pluck the string. So you put them together into a beat, basically you just trigger it, and then that sounds like that, basically. It takes a lot of time and effort, but and there's a synth underneath to give it a bit of ominous feel, and a bit of reverb within it. Next up we have the synth bed. Which by the sounds of it we didn't actually use. Yeah, so that wasn't used. that was an idea that just never appeared in the track. So once again, it shows that you can go down all these sort of weird avenues and you're producing something, and some of it you just don't use. Next up we have the that's a synth bass with a lot of distortion. So obviously we put that along with the actual bass. This is what it sounds like. And again, the whole idea is just to give the track a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. Next up we have the banjo. So we have two separate banjo parts. The first is in the chorus. So it's like an actual melody, an ostinato type melody. Yeah, just kind of add a bit of movement. Next up we have sort of the verse banjo. Once again, the idea is to add a pulsating effect. And there's a bit of reverb on these. So these were recorded with the actual banjo, real banjo, and a mic, a small condenser microphone, and it was placed roughly around the sort of 12th fret, same as a guitar really, just kind of it's about 30 to 40 centimeters back, looking directly sort of into where your fingers are playing of the acoustic guitars. Pretty standard acoustic. So what that is so it's two acoustic guitar parts. One is played in standard tuning, and then the other, normally I would use a Nashville tuning. So basically you tune the whole guitar, using lighter strings a whole octave above normal. But in this case it was the sort of cheater's way of doing that. So you play one in standard tuning, just normal. So in this case we're playing an F sharp, so I'm playing normally an F sharp, and then the next time I will take a capo and just move that further up the neck, just to give it, so the two guitars sound slightly different, even though they're playing the same chordal sort of parts. So you put them together, one goes to the left, one goes to the right, it just makes the track sound wider. So let's see what they sound like together. Yeah, and this is the track just before the mix, so you can hear some edit points in there. So next up we have electrics. So pretty standard, that's a Telecaster through a Vox amp with a wee bit of grit. Next up we have basically the same thing, but it's just a slightly different sound. And once again, if you put them together, it's the same as the acoustic, it just makes it sound wider. Yeah, so lots of guitars. Next up we have the stabs, as I call them. Basically just I think it's the stabs. Yep, verse stabs. Just emphasizing the downbeat each time, you know, 1, 2, 3, you know, that kind of feeling. With a wee bit of delay just to kind of make the beat kind of move a bit. Diamond guitars, where it's just a guitar playing 1, 2, you know, each kind of downbeat, just to emphasize all the downbeats. In the chorus, just make the chorus sound bigger. That's a Fender Twin sound, with a wee bit of grit as usual. And same again, same part, different sound. So one's very high end, top end, one's quite mid-range, low end. Blend them together, you get a nice kind of auto EQ happening. So we have the following. You know, so you take a lot of time to go through each kind of guitar sound and craft the sound. Next up we have some high note stuff, which sounds like this. So that is basically you're kind of echoing the banjo part, and then elongating notes, so kind of following the vocal and the banjo together just to create more movement. Once again, that is a Fender Twin with a bit of grit and a bit of delay. That's how that sound was got. Next up, we have something that wasn't used. Yeah, so that was like a verse idea. Once again, you record these things, think it's going to sound great, and then you go to hear it back and it's like, what was I doing? So, yep, and next up we have the actual guitar solo. So yeah, it's actually 2 distortion pedals running in the Fender Twin with a lot of delay, just to give a lot of movement. So let's sort of sculpt. That's all the sort of musical elements contained within the track. So now it's on the vocals. First up we have the lead vocal. We have the lead vocal split up into a number of tracks, as you can see there. We have the verses, choruses, middle eights. Simply that is just so as we can control the compression and all the other effects of the vocal based upon how loud it is and the type of singing that's required. You know, obviously the singing in the chorus is going to be a lot louder and more dynamic than the verse. So it's just by splitting them up, it gives you more control. So first off, we have the verse. Let's play it without any reverb.
Part-time at a coffee shop, she's got bills to pay but no coins in the jar, and at the end of the night she'll flirt her way to the bar.
Yeah, so basically nice dry vocal. So we have a reverb, we have a long reverb.
Part-time at a coffee shop, she's got bills to pay but no coins in the jar, and
then we have a 8-note delay.
He works part-time at a coffee shop, she's got bills to pay but no coins in the jar,
and then we have a 1/4-note delay.
And at the end of the night she'll flirt her way to the bar. It's gotta get better than this.
So they're all blended throughout each part. You know, in the verses the 1/4-note delay will not be on, and then that'll sort of change throughout the mix. So in the chorus, the 1/4-note delay comes on, and the long reverb becomes more of that. So once again, it's about creating movement and making the vocal move and shift and change with the track. So next up, we have the chorus vocal.
Oh, wow!
And let's show you what the effects do to that on their own. They'll sound really bombastic on their own because the whole track isn't around it. So once you put the whole track in, reverbs and stuff will tend to get lost. So it'll sound really full on without anything else in.
Oh, wow! Take a deep breath and dive right in. Oh, wow! Open up your heart and just let it begin.
Yeah, so as you can hear, a lot of reverb and delay, but once you put that into the track, it all kind of disappear. So next up in the chorus, we have a double vocal.
Oh, wow! Take a deep breath and dive right in. Oh, wow!
So as you take it out, it sounds really thin. So you put the two together again. So.
Oh, wow! Take a deep breath and dive right in.
So as you can, it's basically just a process of making the vocal in the chorus really jump and go into your face. Yeah. So the only other thing we have is the vocoder at the start.
Make it better. Make it better than. Make it better. Make it better than.
Yeah. Just a simple vocoder part. Then we have all sorts of vocals that come in and out. Yeah, so this will show you, but once again, you know, the process you can go around creating a track. So here we have these vocals. So it's a heavily chopped and heavily pitched vocal. Yeah, so just experimenting. I think the only thing that made it into the track was this. So yes, that's just That's the harmonies backwards. So backwards and pitched up an octave. And slightly chopped. So yeah, so it's just, once again, it's just like just little bits of ear candy, sort of to take your ear, you know, sort of. You hear, the whole idea is that you hear something different in the track every time you hear it. That's kind of the feel we're going for. Next up, so it's like an Ellie Goulding kind of thing. Once again, it's really heavily chopped and heavily pitched. The idea is so it doesn't sound like the singer that done it. That made the track. Next up. So that comes in just between the solo, the sort of breakdown, and the sort of verse 3 in the solo. Then we have these. Yeah, so they're just like little things that you play about with, you know, just you mess around with sound, you take vocals apart, too much time in your hands, and this is the sort of stuff you get up to. Some of it gets used, some of it doesn't, but you can kind of see where we were going, just trying to experiment with as much stuff as we physically can, and then fit it in where and when it is needed, just to add some interest. And then we have the main backing vocals, which are just like a 3-part harmony. So that's one part. Put the second part in. And you put the third part in. You know, so we actually just sit and work this stuff out. So that just involves sitting with a keyboard and working out the harmony parts. Here we have another 2-part harmony. Yeah, so it's the oh parts. You know, so then you put in the second part. You know, so it's 2-part harmony. You can kind of hear a bit of headphone bleed whenever she was singing it. Next up, we have yet more harmonies. So these are just doubling the chorus, really.
Take a deep breath and dive right in. Open up your heart and just let it begin.
And then we have a counterpart to
You
that
can fight it. Don't stop trying.
that was not used. So we have this.
You can fight it. Don't stop trying. You can show them you can fly.
So it's options, so let's put that in context. So this is the chorus with the harmony.
Take a deep breath and dive right in. Oh, open up your heart and just let it begin. You can fight it. Don't stop trying. You can show them you can fly. Oh, you can pick your dreams up off the ground, 'cause it gets better than this.
Yeah, so it's a simple 2-part harmony. Well, it's not simple, but it's 2-part harmony. So let's go through those options again. So we have this backing vocal option.
Keep on fighting, don't stop trying,
So that was from the original demo, but it was never actually used. And then we have, there's another one. So we have this.
Let it begin.
So let's put the two of them together.
Let it begin. Keep on fighting,
Yeah, so it's just show you. Like you do all this stuff, you record all these parts, and a lot of it you don't end up using, because you find that it sounds great in isolation, but then the minute you put it into the full track, things can just get lost and there's no need for them. So it's an arrangement thing, but you know, you can have the best arrangement in the world, but you still like to play about with stuff and experiment. So next up we have the verse backing vocals.
Try and she'll try, but she won't get too far. It's gotta get better than this.
You know, so it sounds weird on its own, so let's put it in with the verse.
Her dreams and some dead end bar, and she'll try, but she won't get too far. It's gotta get better than this.
Yeah, so once again it's just about adding weight to things. And then finally we have a breakdown backing vocal.
Chase her dream.
So it's like an echo part, so let's put in the middle 8 vocal and you'll hear what it's doing.
She was getting ready to chase her dream, and then she bumped into him along the same street. And I'll try, I'm still messy. It's gotta get better than this, oh yeah. It's gotta get better than this, oh yeah. It's gotta get better than this.
And there's an almost minor chord feel between the harmonies there. Yeah, so that's basically everything we recorded for the track, and there's quite a lot of stuff going on. So let's, we'll just start building it up from the ground up. So just to show you how the arrangement works, because 90% of mixing and writing a song, in my opinion, is all about the arrangement of the song. So arrangement is crucial. So let's go with we'll go with the intro. So the key parts in the intro are the drums and the vocoder part. So let's play them together.
Make it better. Make it better then. Make it better. Make it better then.
She works part.
Yeah, so it's like the drummer's playing like a tom sort of riff. So it's almost like a musical riff on its own, So it just adds something to it. So you then put the recorder in, and it all of a sudden becomes more interesting.
Make it better. Make it better then. Make it better. Make it better then.
Yep, and then the track will then break down to that kind of piano feel, sort of the hitting the piano and the groove sort of synth. And then we're into the next section, which is kind of the verse 2. So you've got that you've got a riff with the drums they're doing, and then the vocoders, you've got something to catch your ear, so it's like a hook. Then it breaks down to the verse where the story's been told, and then musically it drops, and then it starts to build all the way to the chorus. So the next sort of key musical sections are the sound effects and the bass, which enters in the next section, and also the sort of the delay stab kind of guitars. I'm taking out all the sort of rhythmy guitars just to show you where it sort of builds from. So you can hear the sound effects where they sort of rise the chorus. So next into the chorus, then the key parts to the chorus are the synth bass and the banjo. And yeah, so I'll leave out all the rhythm guitars, just sort of the key musical parts. track is down again, you know. So then if we roll in all the musical elements for the chorus sections, you will see where they were coming from. So this is what we have. Yeah, so it's a lot bigger. So if you add in the vocals and all the BBs, you will get the full final track. And it sounds like this.
Gotta get better than this. Oh, take a deep breath and dive right in. Oh, open up your heart and just let it begin. You can fight it, don't stop trying. You can show them you can fly. Oh, you can pick your dreams up off the ground, 'cause it gets better than this. Hey, 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 it gets better than this. Hey, hey, hey. She was getting ready.
Yeah, so you can hear how each element kind of matches in with each other, and you also hear how the reverbs and delays, they sound really bombastic when they're played on their own, but the minute you put everything in, it all kind of spreads and works together. So it's all about, each element is all about leaving room for something else. So arrangement is vitally important in creating a track. That's the reason we do these things, to show you guys how we work on an arrangement and bring a song from the initial writing stage through to the final production. So hopefully you guys found that helpful, and you got an insight into how we make our music, how we go about finding the sounds, and generally how we produce our music. If you want to see more of this style of content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and tell us what you guys want to see. If there's any videos we can make, any style of content you want to see us make, don't forget to let us know, and we'll see you again soon.